Hi everyone, and welcome to Newlyfed. Welcome to Newlyfed.
Alrighty, take 5,000.
Oh, take 50 million.
Newlyfed. Learn from me. Newlyfed. Take. It's not 2. Okay. Newlyfed. Take 2.
Welcome back to Newlyfed. I'm Rivky Kleiman.
And I'm Rahama Jaffa.
And we're going to help you be comfortable in the kitchen. Today's episode is actually going to be really resourceful, and I hope you're going to keep coming back to it. And remember us, fondly only, when you're shopping in the store and really want to know what's for dinner or what we're going to make for Shabbos or Yom Tov.
What is this beautiful array of like tons of meat? Some I recognize, some I don't. Talk to me. What's going on here?
Well, good for you, girl, because I like that she's recognizing stuff off the bat. Should we play what Rahama knows before we actually get into it?
We should totally play a guessing game.
We should totally play a guessing game.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, that I think is a ribeye.
Very good. Now, it definitely is part of a rib steak, but if you look, it's thicker. It does have the bone. So because it's thicker, we're going to call it a cowboy steak.
Okay.
But you definitely got it. It is the king of the grill. It is our rib steak, fat cowboy steak. And you know what's interesting? Sometimes you can actually find it in the store with an elongated French bone called a tomahawk. Really, you're paying a lot more for the bone, but the presentation is just absolutely insane. The actual preparation will remain the same.
Okay, I don't know what this is.
So this actually, if you come in closely and you look, do you see how similar it looks in shape and in coloration to the
So is it
cowboy
just the
steak?
meat without the bone?
Very good.
So it's
this
a
is
cowboy
actually
steak kind of.
Good. So it's actually called a ribeye, and this is a boneless rib steak. But if you do look, the thickness would generally be what a rib steak would be. Okay?
Yes.
If we move on over here, once we're on it, being that these are so related, this actually is a standing rib roast. Do you see the same marbleization?
I love this twine wire thing.
It is so awesome. This is beyond delicious. We have our bones on the bottom. Sometimes your butcher can separate it. Sometimes
Is it meant to be a sea fat here? Is it meant to be fatty or
Yeah,
thin?
yeah. The fat will actually burn off as you're baking it.
Probably
And
delicious tasting.
What we're gonna do with all of these pieces of meat, what we're gonna do is actually hit it with a high sear, okay? If you're doing your standard rib steak, there's no problem for you to just make sure that you crisscross it with your knife, okay? Both sides. Make sure that your meat is room temperature before you start working with it. All it needs, it is so delicious. Hit it with a little bit of kosher salt and pepper after you put a little bit of olive oil, and really, that's all you need.
Basic, clean, easy.
When it comes to a cowboy steak, what I actually love to do, I know you're like wild about my chili lime rub, and of course if you don't have it, you can hit it with kosher salt and pepper or any particular rub that you like, but I like to actually hit it with olive oil. After that, chili lime. Sometimes if I really want to get funky, I'll even add a little bit of fresh crushed garlic, because garlic just makes everything better. A little bit of the smoked chipotle, but like a little bit adds a little bit more dimension, and I'll actually go for it. Sear top and bottom, but because it's that thick, you're never going to be able to cook it through properly on high heat. If you're grilling it, what you want to do is start off by getting a nice sear. I would say even 4 to 5 minutes on each side. Turn it over, hit the second side, and then you're going to either move it to indirect heat. That means that the heat is still going on the right, and you have either a lower flame or almost no heat on the side, where you'll let it continue until it reaches perfection, which would be 130. Very often I'll even take it off at 125, because standing meat will continue to cook and bring it to that 130. So it depends if you like a real medium rare or you like it to be a little bit more towards the medium side.
I like a little pink.
a little bit of pink,
Like
and you're gonna take it off at 130, not at 125. Now, when you're doing your cowboy steak inside, I actually take out my grill pan, make sure that I heat up the grill pan before we do anything, just like with everything else that we've done. Once it's hot enough, hit it with a little bit of olive oil with your Evo sprayer, and then you're going to put it on, let it go for the same 4 or 5 minutes per side. My oven is always preheated to 325, and I let it go in for about, I would say, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then I check it. All right. Some people love to do the low and slow, and that works great. You can have your oven preheated to 200, and then it can continue for about 2 hours. To me, I like to get it over with and get it done, but both, you will yield the exact same results with both of that. Just remember, Rivky, do not reheat it. Make sure you take it out and bring it to room temperature. Got it. Moving on to our standing rib roast, which really is like the king of the meats. So what you're going to do is, just like you needed to hit this with a high heat, you're going to need to hit this with a high heat as well. Bring it to room temperature, cover it with your favorite rub. You're going to, definitely you can massage it a little bit if you want. If you want to throw on a little bit of the garlic, it's great. At that point, what I like to do is I like to have my oven, instead of making a frying pan dirty, instead of searing it on a pan, I actually have my oven preheating to 450. I like to put it in my 9x13, blast it on 450 for about 15 minutes, and then I reduce the heat to 325.
So can you cook this on a grill?
Absolutely. It is more difficult, so honestly, it's not something that I would recommend a beginner.
Right.
And I gotta be honest, it comes out so perfect in the oven. It's great in a smoker. That
Cool.
it really, really, really is. It's probably
Newlyfed's getting fancy.
Absolutely.
We're buying smokers. Add to the
you,
registry.
Yeah, there you go. If you're going to do it on the grill, you definitely are going to have to play with elevating, going from the top to the bottom, working with direct heat and indirect heat, and definitely constantly checking it with your meat thermometer. I'm going to introduce you to a meat thermometer soon. This could become your new best friend, a meat thermometer.
Huh?
Huh?
You think you put it in your mouth?
No, but wait, well, just like when you're taking your temperature in your mouth, we're going to do the same thing with meat. There's one more thing. Your butcher might decide to actually separate different parts of your standing rib roast, where he might actually decide to cut away the fat flap and leave just the center. That is commonly found as your kosher filet mignon or your Chateaubriand. If you notice, there's really not a lot of marbleization, and when you're cooking that, it's very important to cook it medium rare. Like if you're somebody who likes your meat brown, really it's going to be dry. Okay, there's not a lot of marbleization there. You're losing all the fat that's going to give you the moisture within your meat. Okay, if your butcher decides, and there's only one per rib, okay, if your butcher decides to cut the top part of this fatty flat, you end up with this magnificent piece of meat,
which I think is a surprise steak. Am I right?
And you are so right. The surprise steak is, honestly, it's just the best. You want to really surprise somebody, you really want to make somebody feel good, you give them
specialty.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, the surprise steak is so delicious on its own, it needs absolutely nothing. And I really mean it. I very often like to play with flavors. When it comes to my surprise steak, all you need is kosher salt and pepper. You need to make sure to score your piece of meat, just like we discussed scoring your, I forgot to tell you that when I told you to crisscross is called scoring. But when you score your meats, you're gonna hit it with a little bit of olive oil, kosher salt and pepper. That is it. You can either grill it on your grill. We're talking about 4 or 5 minutes per side. That is it. Let it sit. Oh, it is the best. I'm like, seriously. And I have to be honest, like in my family, I have no choice. I baby my meats. Like legit, I baby my meats. I stand there with my thermometer, and as it comes out, I check, and we don't want to mess it up, especially the price. Because there's only one okay? It's not like you have several rib steaks, which will make up your standing rib roast. There's only one. So your surprise steak is going to get cooked medium rare, and the time will depend on the thickness of your piece of meat.
Awesome.
Now we're gonna move on to a different part.
What
of the
is
rib.
this?
This over here, I still think, although it gets prepared differently, these are still really king cuts. They really are. They are so delicious. It's a different part of the rib. All of these are going to be attached to a bone, and it's going to actually
Probably adds a lot of flavor to the bone.
Absolutely. You see, you're such a Sharpie. I keep telling you that. Right over here, we have a short rib, and the short rib is really kind of similar to flanken. It's got a lot of connective tissue, as well as here, just cut differently, same cut, we have a flanken roast, okay? You actually see your bones on the bottom, which again, like you said, are gonna add so much moisture and flavor, because we know that bones have so much flavor. All of that connective tissue, and look at all this marbling. But because it is that marbled, and from the area that it comes from, we're gonna prepare it very differently than these meats,
right.
okay? These are gonna be best when they're cooked low and slow, okay? These we're gonna hit with a sear as well. I want you to know, I used to always start off by searing my short ribs in the frying pan and then popping it into my preheated oven.
Wow. It's a lot of steps.
It's so many steps, and you gotta clean a pot and a pan. I was like, you know what? I tried it out and it works. I use the same trick. Preheat my oven to 450. I make sure I get it in, get a really good hit with that steam, with the heat, and what it does is it starts to seal in the juices internally. So that really is fantastic as it's cooking, because we sealed the juices in. You're gonna end up with a fall off your bone,
Like soft, you're saying?
like legit. That's what we're doing when we do it.
These also?
Absolutely. Both of them are going to be cooked similarly, okay? I like to, like I said, start it off with the 450, the sear, and after that I like to add on whatever dressing I want to put on top of it.
Right.
At that point,
I feel like this would be good with like onions and wine.
oh my gosh.
Something.
She's fantastic. Onions and red wine glaze is phenomenal. You can do a barbecue glaze. You can do any which glaze. Whatever flavors you like, the beauty.
You know I'm
is
gonna
that
FaceTime you after this and be like, what do I do?
I am waiting for those phone calls.
Okay,
I
good,
really mean
good.
it. So the difference will only be that your ribs are going to need 2.5 hours, and your flanken is going to need more like about 3.5.
Well, it's a bigger
sometimes
piece
4.
and it's whole.
Exactly. And you can test for fork tender. A little trick that I think is very important, before you cover it with silver foil and let it go really tightly, I would actually put a piece of parchment paper, because this, whether it's your dressing, your sauce, the spices, will eat away at the silver foil, and you don't want to get those little
Wow,
holes.
that's a cool trick. I
it
never
actually
even
does.
seen that.
So just hit it with a piece of parchment paper.
That's
and
oven
then-
safe?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to quickly put it together, we're going to put these into a pan. We're going to put it in the preheated oven to 450. High heat, 15 to 20 minutes. We're then going to take it out, dress it with whatever we're dressing it with, covering it with parchment, sealing it really tightly with the silver foil, reducing the temperature to 325 or 350. I do find that when it's a flanken roast, very often you do need the 350. But either way is fine. Like, you just might have to do your fork test, and you want it to be fall off the bone, and that's how you know that it's ready.
Right.
Okay?
I feel like a lot with you in the kitchen is kind of like, as much as like knowledge that you know, it's a lot of also like winging it and like self-picking up things. Like, it's kind of like just, you gotta figure it out. Like, just if it looks right, try it with a fork, figure it out.
We're gonna move over now to the skirt steak.
My
Skirt
dad
steak,
loves skirt steak
I have
because
to
it's like
be
a little
honest.
salty.
Absolutely. I love the way our bride that knew nothing knows so much.
I know you told me with the fish never to put it in water because it's not good, but sometimes I see that my father will let this soak in water.
So that
Why?
was actually fantastic. The skirt steak and the hanger steak are both very, very salty cuts. What we do need to do and must happen is it does need to sit in water for 10 minutes and remove some of the saltiness. What's great about it, it is so receptive to whatever flavors you're gonna do. Trust me, you wanna do kosher salt and pepper? That's great, it'll be delicious. You wanna bump it up? Throw it in a great marinade. Take any of your favorite rubs, add a little bit of olive oil. Is it good plain?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you could do kosher salt and pepper. Absolutely, this is a really flavorful piece of meat because of that extra salt. You're not gonna taste it and it's gonna be like bland.
Right.
You're not gonna find that. So this and the hanger steak both need to be soaked, and after that, you're gonna continue. But you do wanna dry it well before you continue by either adding the salt and pepper or putting it into a marinade. Skirt steaks are great on the grill, like really great on the grill. It's probably one of the best things that I would say
good for a
is
barbecue.
better. Absolutely. And I would say you probably need about 2 minutes per side. Again, for the people who love medium rare, you're gonna do that. For those of you who like it to be a little bit more well done, by all means, do it to your liking.